Everything is working out for me. It's working out for you, too. It just takes believing that it is. We can have, be, and do anything. The key is to care about how you feel and choose to feel good right now. Today is an exciting day because today marks episode 1 of season 2 of Feel Good Now, the Dr. Williams podcast. And it's only fitting that starting a new season should start with something a little bit different. So what you're going to be hearing today is a co-creation session with me and another individual. And this is actually going to be a series of 3 episodes playing over the next 3 weeks. This will give you an idea of what it's like to work with me one-on-one in a co-creation session. So I hope you enjoy this interaction. I know that I did. And I look forward to possibly working with you in the future. Let's get into it and co-create. Hey guys, I'm here today with Tera Dummit, and Tera reached out to me to set up an appointment. So we are going to do a little series of sessions together, and Tera was really interested in doing some co-creation work together. So we'll get into what that looks like and specifically what it is she wants to focus on. But for right now, I just want to introduce you to Tera. So hi, Tera. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for coming, finding me and wanting to work with me. I really appreciate it. Can you just let everybody know who you are and kind of what your life journey is about?
Well, that's a very complex question. I think with that, I would say that one of the most important things about me is that I handle specific questions a lot better. Who I am at the young age of 40, it's been a long and amazing journey. Above all, I'm a mother. I'm an explorer, and that really sums it up.
Okay, well, fair enough. I like that you didn't jump into this is what I do for a job, which is most people's response, right? When you're like, "Who
Mm.
are you?" And they're like, "Well, this is what I do." But you really spoke to more of a heart center, and I like that. So before we jump into the actual session, I think that we should just take a moment, kind of clear our energy, just release any connection that we have with anybody else. So it's just me and you in this moment so that we can connect. So let me just tune in a little bit here. All right. Releasing all negativity, cutting ties with others, and coming into the wholeness of our energy, of our higher self, that we may connect for Tera's higher good. Do I have your permission to do that, Tera?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I want to give everybody just kind of a little overview of kind of how we got to this point. So when you reached out to me, you wanted to work together for co-creation. And in a minute, I want you to kind of give an idea of what you thought that looked like for us. But what we did before even meeting is I had you do 30 days of alignment meditation. And you were already engaged in a lot of practice with your spiritual growth and things that serve you in that way. But what we did is we had a very specific kind of meditation and you chose 20 minutes. It was either 15 or 20 minutes, kind of listening to just some white noise or something that's not real interesting, where you got to connect with your inner being. And I want you to kind of just tell everybody what that experience was like doing that for a month.
Well, first of all, I was introduced to you from a friend who sent me your podcast, and I have lived a life of just full trust, sometimes precariously, just trust, and then I'll find out later what it was all about. So part of that was part of my journey or my perspective entering this co-creation ship. Um, and the meditation, I often find that sometimes it's helpful for me to get permission or to get offered something. So, though I do have other practices that I do, I haven't ever intentionally set aside time to meditate for 20 minutes. And I love Abraham Hicks mentions a fan, using a fan in one of her talks, and that was incredibly useful because I have a fan directly in my window. And
Great.
yeah, it was. And it's been an interesting journey. It didn't come with ease to clear my mind, but then after the 30 days of practice, it's now habit. Although I did skip this morning,
But you
um,
have continued since the
I
end of the
have,
30
I
days.
have, and
Okay.
I will, and I have this cup here that I'm drinking my tea out of, and it's make time for yourself,
Love
and
it.
20 minutes a day is such a minimal amount of time to take
Mhm.
that time to set intention, to just clear and be open, and whatever your
And
personal
be
meditation
your
is.
whole self, connecting with
Hmm.
you, and then everything kind of falls in line, in my opinion, from because I'm doing the same thing. But everything seems to come a little bit easier when I start my day doing that kind of meditation. Just take things easier. I just don't get as upset as quickly as I did before, and it just seems like there's a little bit more ease. Does it seem that way for you?
Yeah, I think if nothing else, you can intentionally set your vibration for the day. Say, okay,
Yeah.
this is where I hope to remain, no matter what
Yes.
external aspects come into my world. So
And
that's
even if
part
you
of it.
don't hold it, you start again tomorrow. It's not that
Yep,
big of a deal because things happen.
they do. They do.
Okay, well, that's great, and I'm really, really pleased that you found the value in that and that continues to serve you. Everything should be serving you in a positive way, and if it isn't, then obviously don't continue doing it. But since it is, I think that's terrific. I also want to check in with you about where you feel like you are on the emotional guidance scale today. And I meant to pull it up so that we could look at it, but I didn't. But where do you feel like
Oh,
you are feeling
joy and happiness are up here, and then discouragement, grief, sadness are down below.
depression? Mhm.
And I think that I do tend to live more up here, um, just by default. And so much so that a friend actually mentioned your mention of toxic positivity. And I
Mhm.
thought, how rude.
Yeah.
I certainly am not that positive. Like, but I understand after our conversation together where she was coming from, that my intent to uplift her was then not giving her room to express and work through her emotions. So we've communicated since then, progressed, and realized our different communication styles and my intent versus how she's seeing it. So
You know that my take on toxic positivity is a little different than most because I feel like that's kind of a conundrum. Something can't be toxic and positive. It's
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, otherwise, it's just not positive, then it's a negative. But
Hmm.
but I understand where she's coming from as
Yeah.
far as
Yeah.
the mainstream view of what toxic positivity is.
Hmm.
Okay, so you were saying you are where today?
Up here.
You're up there. Okay,
I'm
so you're
I'm
feeling happy.
very excited about the prospects of my plans today, and there's a lot going on. It's my day off. The
Yeah,
sun is shining. What more could I ask for? I have a cup
wonderful.
of tea.
Yes. I love that you threw in some of the things that you're appreciating, and that's a good way to stay up in that high zone. But knowing you're up there, that's a great place for us to do co-creation because that allows us to get very specific. If you were lower on the scale, we would want to go more general, try out some different thoughts that started to feel good and start working our way up the emotional guidance scale. But since you're already up there, that's terrific. That means we can kind of just jump right in. The other thing I wanted to ask about is I sent you a list of the unconditional affirmations. Did you get a chance to look those over? Did any of those resonate with you?
I did. Some of the wording, I think a lot of them began with I like. And so I've been playing around with that recently over the past few months. Either I am, which I for some purposes, I veer away from it because I don't like to remain stagnant. I
Mhm.
don't like to say, I am only this and I will not change because I really like to remain open to change. Although I am a fan of Brussels sprouts, so there's certain things, and my son is
Me
not,
too.
so there's certain things you're very concrete about, and other things I like to leave that room, and I like, or I want, or even we are, as
Mhm.
a universe and a oneness. So the phrasing changes for me, and one affirmation that maybe you have some advice on. I'm I am, or I
Mhm.
currently am experiencing monetary lack in
Okay.
life. And so, these affirmations, I love money and money will come to me. So I'm having a struggle with accepting that in the core of my being because of the cultural aspects of money, the greed, and so I'm having a detachment of, I guess, the acceptance that money will come to me in many ways and I will
Yeah.
flourish. So there's not a full grasp of that sort of affirmation where it is easier for me to say, I am grateful, I'm full of gratitude easily. That,
Yeah.
snap of a finger, that's no problem. So some come easily and others don't, as far as where they settle.
Let me say first off that you're definitely not alone in that. I think money is a really big one for people where we have deep seated beliefs that are not serving us. And it's hard to flip that script. So, okay, I kind of had a feeling we might go that way towards money for our session because when I was taking notes the last time that we talked, that was one of the things that I really noticed was something that you're wanting to promote more abundance in your life. Before I get into this, with the affirmations, one of them is, I like knowing that I am source energy. And I wanted to know what
Mm.
your take is on that because I wanted to know where you're coming from with your spiritual beliefs. I speak from that standpoint a lot, and I want to be able to know where you stand to see if we connect on that or if I can speak with some language that's better suited to your beliefs.
Um, let's see. Would you mind giving me a brief update on where you are with
With
that?
that? Sure.
Mhm.
So when I say source energy, that's what a lot of people refer to as God or the higher power. I just refer to it as source energy. And I wasn't sure if you were familiar with that kind of wording, if that's something that you adhere to. Do you believe that you are God force? That you have an
Mm.
inner being that is non-physical, that is vibrationally focused and that there's 2 aspects of you, being that your physical self and your vibrational self.
I do move with caution because I think that I have had some experiences that have proven or shown or that I've observed that, yes, believer, if you want to call me as such. I don't, you know, I call it the universe, just
Okay.
as and I don't, you know, I don't like to really go too deep unless somebody is really open, because once you label and name things, then it's sort of an understanding, whereas it's more of a just a full trust. um, Really, that's the best way to explain my relationship with the source energy is full trust, like a
Okay.
trust fall,
Great.
fall into the
Yeah.
sky of life, just trusting that the good and the bad and everything that I perceive is perfect. I mean, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, and some people have kind of, scowled at me and said, no, that's not possible. You're not perfect. Life isn't perfect.
Mm.
But it is. It is really. I love the balance of it all. And so That's my relationship with it.
Okay, great, terrific. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to take about 2 minutes to just kind of meditate, just the two of us, just to tune in to our own intuition, our own inner being, that we might come from that place of pulling from infinite intelligence in order to serve you in our session. That's the only real way to make progress is if we both are tuned in. So I am going to pull up some white noise. All right, here we go. Were you able to focus on it?
Hmm.
Good, great. Okay, so now that we are connected and we are connected with our inner beings and we're connected together, let's jump into kind of what you wanted to achieve. Let's talk about that first, and then we will get specific. So, what is it you're hoping to do with me co-creating? What do you want to promote for yourself?
Um, I think it's already happening. Again, I know that this may not. I wish. Part of me wishes I had a more direct answer, but I think it started before we knew it. I got sent your podcast from a neighbor. Some of the things that you said in your podcast about human design and your story about Ishul led me down those paths, and I met with her and it was amazing. And
Yeah,
then
she's
I
great.
have been immersed in research about human design, and one of the side ideas for monetary gain, or possibly not even, because again, I'm not so attached to that. I think that my pursuit is to share knowledge and wisdom and just share life, as well as just the satisfaction of moving through my life without worry about money. But one of the ideas that I've had is to start a podcast, or a YouTube channel, or who knows what venue I would use. And so, without me setting any intention necessarily of what that might look like, I just thought, wow, here's an open door. This my gut off the human design, my sacral gut. I'm a generator with a sacral. My gut feeling to go this way, whereas other people and things and podcasts have been in my life and I didn't feel that same pull. Um, so I possibly have some ideas or some notions or things I could mention, but I haven't given it too much thought in order to leave that open room for possibilities.
Okay. You're kind of just in that exploration mode. And that's great because you're letting things come and you're seeing how it's growing and progressing. And it is kind of one of those one step leads to another step leads to another because those logical steps come to you when you are in a receiving aligned state. And that you're just along for the journey and letting it be a satisfying thing is the perfect place to be. So now that you have me here, do you have any question that you want to ask? Is there anything, even with a specific focus for monetary gain or anything? Do you have a question?
That's funny. That's funny that to ask a question. I think that the way that I've been receiving it is that I'm supposed to be asked questions. If that's not, I don't know if that sounds right or if that makes sense, but um, I've been reading it in more than one place, and I'm not one of those like superstitious sort of gals, but sometimes when something keeps presenting itself in your life, like last week, almost literally everybody I came across said, Tara, what do you want? Or, what do you want out of life? And even my son, he's where it really threw me off. He was the fifth person in that day. We're sitting in the car and he goes, Mom, what do you want? And I was like, what? What is this? A source speaking to me through
Mhm.
the way that they do, the way that source does. And so I said, knowledge and health. And those are my go-tos. And then the wisdom to do what I can with that. And I keep going back to that. And so,
Well, maybe this is happening, these questions coming to you to kind of get you focused on what you do want and how to ask for it. The reason I'm asking if you have a question is because when we want something, being able to formulate that into a question for source allows you to open up to the idea of receiving the solution or the answer. But first, the question has to be there. And you're kind of like playing with this idea of monetary gain, but I'm trying to encourage you to formulate that into a question based on what you want. So let's just imagine that you have let's just say it's Abraham. Let's say you're at an Abraham Hicks seminar, you get called up on stage. What is your question for infinite intelligence? I know, right? Ah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, complete nervousness. um, Boy, those blocks. How do I um, get through my unknown blocks? Because I think they're not clear to me either if I'm looking at the human design or what Ishel had provided me, saying, here's some of the things that you're being blocked. And I think one thing came up, and that my heart is blocked, and that, there's some things going on there. And so I hugged a person that I didn't want to hug, and I felt a full release. And so that was
Hmm,
very affirming to me, saying, okay, poof, that was a clear message. So things come along in those ways, but other things maybe aren't so apparent to me. Like, what am I doing that's stopping me? Um, that's
okay.
blocking me from progression. So,
Let's see if we can maybe just talk about it a little bit and see if something comes up for you. So, let's talk about your views on money. What are your opinions about money and society and the whole economic system or whatever it is that works in your mind? How do you think about
well,
money?
I think that everybody has their own journey. First of all, so mine. I wouldn't say that even my son should have the same relationship with money, or my daughter. Our culture, specifically in America, less so in tribes, and that sort of thing. I think that there does need to be a form of trade, and I've gone through summers when I was younger with no money. I got housing, I got food, and I worked and I flourished, and there was no money, very minimal amounts of money involved in my life. And that sat really, really well with me. But I understand on the global scale, on that sort of scale, that the trade, paper money, tangible things, makes sense on that scale. Um, I think I would thrive more on a smaller trade base operation, um, but that doesn't pay the electric bill, so there's all these little avenues that you have to go down. And boy, oh boy, I don't know much, because I've pulled away from this insane economic shift that we're experiencing, which we have experienced in other repressions and depressions and that sort of thing. So it's not new necessarily, but it's definitely huge and big and new, I think, in America specifically, you know, like, whoa, everything's $4, $2 more than it ever used to be. And so now, and we're being told that we must be stressed, that we must, uh, and so I don't buy into that. People continue to tell me, oh, you're stressed. Let me alleviate your stress. Well, I'm not. Thank you for mentioning it, and thank you for the offer. And so that opens conversations, with the stress around it. So I'm not stressed, but I do know that I want to, whether it's through money or wealth. I prefer the term wealth over money. I am open to wealth coming to me in many ways. And boy, I wrote a little poem about a dime a day, because almost every other day, I find a dime on the ground. And it's like a weird little reminder, like, hey, you're being given. You have everything you need, but then I stop and I think, well, but my as far as vibrational levels go, I'm looking at my car and it's a Honda and it's got a little Roadrunner and a little what the Coyote
Mhm.
on the little bump, like a crack in the car. And so it's that kind of car. Um Not that I need something fancy, but I want to be able to provide for my children. And I'm a giver and I want to be able to give. And in a lot of those instances, when I'm given the opportunity to give, it's money. How do you solve homelessness? Money. How do we feed everybody? Money. I continue to try to have conversations that would guide people otherwise, saying no to solve homelessness. Money is not the answer. That's a bigger conversation, but I really don't believe that money is the answer. Um, so I guess
Okay.
it's my relationship with money.
Have you been considering one-on-one sessions with me? Well, if you have, I wanted to let you know that there's actually two ways to go about doing that. You can go the therapy route, or you can go the coaching route. I am a licensed mental health counselor here in the state of Washington, and I'm actually registered as a telehealth provider. So this is something that might even be covered with your insurance company. And what you can do is you can go to the Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center, or NRTRC for short, and you can find me there in Sequim, Washington. Sequim. So if you're in Washington and you're looking to have therapy with a mental health counselor, you can work with me. And we can do that virtually. That's what telehealth is. It allows us to meet without having to be in person. So what you do is you go to www.nrtrc.org and search for behavioral health in Sequim, Washington. And you'll find Dr. Williams, LLC is there. And that's how you schedule with me for therapy sessions. If you're wanting coaching sessions, you just go to my website, www.drwilliamspodcast.com. Right on the home page, there's a button there that says Work with Dr. Williams, and it'll take you to my scheduling calendar where you can set up a free 15-minute consult so that we can talk about it and see if it feels like it would be a good fit for you. Even if you've done traditional therapy in the past or coaching sessions with someone else and you felt like it wasn't a good fit, I get that. But I encourage you to give me a chance because I do things a little bit differently, and I might be the fit that you've been looking for. So there's really nothing to lose. Set up the consult. We'll just have a chat and see how you feel about it. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Okay, so one thing you said that I really liked is you said, I prefer to not use the word money. I prefer to use the word wealth because there's a different vibrational frequency for both of those words. I would like to take that one step further and suggest the word abundance instead of the
Mm-hmm.
word wealth. Because even with wealth, I mean, you can have a wealth of a lot of things, but it does have a tie to money. Wealth does. Abundance could be anything. You could have an abundance of leaves, you know, or fruit or dirt in your house. I mean, you have kids,
Yeah,
so I can say that to you.
yeah.
But abundance has a really kind of gentle kind of frequency to it, but it also applies to money. So it sounds like you do want more abundance in your life because money does make the world go round. That is our structure that we're living in. And some of your beliefs, I think, are not allowing you to let that in. So that's something that we're going to look at. Um, there was something else. Oh, you mentioned that there was a time in your life where you did not have any money and that sat well with you. And that is something really interesting to look at, isn't it? Because that felt good. Having no money felt good to you.
It really did.
So,
I just want to share a quick story. And it's a friend of mine. She owns a garden here locally, and um, she paid me that day. I said, pay me whatever, like whatever you got. And she gave me some tea and whatever. And then she gave me a loaf of bread, just a tiny, cute little loaf of bread. And I was thinking dough, money is dough. And then, so I was thinking in one hand, I could have this loaf of bread, which gives me sustenance, and the kindness and yeah, I don't know, just I don't know, just the whole background of that versus I can't eat this money. I can't, I mean, I could burn it to start a fire to keep me warm and to cook my food for me. But the value of each of those, I mean, the bread was much more heartwarming. So,
Yeah.
and I don't mind that about me. But then again, my kids, they want this and they need that, and they got to fix their car and, new shoes. And so,
Well, I love your idea because I align with that also. I wish that the world was structured in a way where we didn't have a monetary system and it was based more on that kind of trade mentality or, doing something for somebody because it comes from your heart and you're connecting on a real level with people. I really like that idea and I think that it's wonderful that you're focused in that way. As more people come into that way of thinking, we'll start to see that change in a bigger, more cultural way because that's our whole structure is made up of people focused on that and devoted to that way of thinking. And as we start shifting that, things will change. That's just how law of attraction works. We see what we are focused on. So I think that's great. But what I want to encourage you to do is to allow money into that idea because that isn't the structure you're living in right now. And even though it's great to promote it, you still, like you said, have to function within our cultural makeup. And your
mhm.
kids want things and you want to provide for them. And you have kind of this split energy going right now where money is concerned. You really want it to be completely different than it is. And I think that might be holding you back from allowing funds to come in. You also mentioned earlier greed. And I want you to speak to that a little bit. I want to understand what your views are on greed.
I think it just falls in this a similar category of consumerism and those that live in fear. Um, and I don't know when I close my eyes and I picture greed and I picture um, insecurities, people that they've somehow attached. I mean, it could be to money, it could be to anything, but something has happened along the way where you are afraid that if you don't um, hoard this stuff rather than giving freely, that you're not going to be supported or provided for. So in a way, it's your having that greed is a security, whether that's greed of love or greed of money or greed of, whatever it is that you're indulging in. Um, and I have other insecurities of my own, I'm sure that I could consider, but greed isn't what greed is something that greed and fear and consumerism, those are all things that I want to stay far, far away from. There's a long list of those things.
Do you look at people that are wealthy and rich as being greedy?
Not at all. No,
Okay.
no, I look at
Okay.
people as individuals. Yeah, and sometimes it's very clear that, you might see a picture of uh, a, a person at a table and their feet are on the belly of a child to keep their feet warm and they're eating. It's the most disgusting picture you could possibly. They're just eating and eating and consuming with a golden crown on their head or whatever. Not a king, but necessarily, but just somebody just filled with all this glutton. And so that
Mm.
person to me, that would be clearly a greedy individual. Um,
If you had a lot of money, would you be worried that other people would view you as greedy?
they may. Yeah, they may. I absolutely don't feel like I have control over the way that people perceive.
And does it matter to you?
I would, if given the opportunity, I would clarify. I would say, "Hey, how can I please share with me your perceptions and how you're seeing that?" And then I would hope that I would be able to provide, either I'd be able to see what they're seeing and change it, or provide a new perspective for them that would show otherwise.
Okay.
Like right now,
What
I
about
have
somebody that
like I've got like 100 blankets in my living room, but then
oh,
there's
you
people
have
out
an
there in the
abundance
world.
of blankets.
I do. I have an abundance of blankets and spoons. I don't know where they all came from. But then there's people out there with no spoon and no blanket. And I have given, but then the blankets keep coming to me. You know, I just need one blanket. I need one cup. That's all I need. I am one person. I don't, so yeah.
That's a really good example of energy. You must not have any resistance where blankets or spoons are considered. Because if you have 0 resistance on a certain subject, they come into your experience.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Yep. I like cozy
And
blankets. Yep.
who
That's all I
doesn't?
need.
I mean, that's great. But that's and just to kind of give some perspective on that, that's why money is not flowing to you because there's a lot of resistance on that road, a lot of thoughts and beliefs that are keeping it away. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get to now as we talk about this, trying to understand what's holding you back from receiving more money or more wealth or more abundance in that form into your life. There's got to be some kind of beliefs that you are continuing to practice, which is holding those things away. Do you know what they are?
Yeah, I guess in some ways I don't want to feed, or give to um the system, I guess.
Okay, that explains it.
So, and I know that I don't have to. In listening to what you're saying, I know that I can. If I did have a lot of money, I wouldn't I wouldn't have to feed the system. I could support all the other things and raise those vibrations, um, in the things that matter to me. So I only just literally last night I listened to a podcast. I forget who it was, but whatever they said clicked. And I said, okay, I'm going to give this another try. And I listened to this affirmation thing about money, and it sat a little more well with me. Just kind of, so I feel like there's some progression.
Okay, that was awesome. That realization that you just had with because I had that kind of in my notes, like understanding that having the money doesn't change what you're doing in the world. Because I see that you have this split there about the way you want it to be and how you are interacting with that within it. And that what you just said was more of a gentle approach to it. It was kind of opening up, allowing it to come in, but still maintaining your view on what you want to create in the world. And I think more thoughts like that are where you want to go with this in creating this. Let me just ask you directly. Do you want more money?
Yes.
Okay. So does that trump your wants for changing the system?
No, no. And
Okay.
as an example, when you asked me that, I said, yes, I want more money, but I'm thinking, um, I don't want the money. I would like a car that has an air conditioner that works. I would like, to provide the opportunity if my son wants to choose to do homeschooling, or if he wants to join a karate class. All these things cost money, unless the other trade off is time, where I'm going there and serving in some way or helping. Um, and I have found the most abundance of free things. I have a list, and this list has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. I found a free bullet, the blender on the side of the road, and I love it. Because I was thinking, okay, I want smoothies. So, oh my gosh, the power of your thoughts. And there's an example where in one of our very first conversations together, you said, stop right there. Don't even start to explain this health
Mhm.
aspect in your life. Don't feed it. Don't give it thought and energy. And I could cry right now. It has dissipated so much since
Oh,
then. And so money, no, yeah, no, really, for real. Um, no, I don't need money.
okay.
If we stopped right now, today, producing everything but real food, we'd be good to go for quite some years. We don't need more cars. We don't need more toys on the mart. We could stop and we would all have enough. I'm going to be getting rid of boxes and boxes and boxes of things. I'm the regifter sort of a gal, and thrift stores and that sort of thing. So no, I don't need money, but there are bills, and there are. I mean, you get what I'm saying. So
Okay. So with what you just said, I just want to highlight the split energy in that because you made a really good case for not bringing money in because you're saying no, what I want is the things to come to me that I want. I want a different, more reliable car. I want that to come to me. You said you wanted your son to have the option of doing homeschool. You're talking about how you engage with things that don't cost a lot of money, like thrifting and regifting and things like that. There's a lot of energy behind that, and that is the thought patterns that you are practicing most of the time. And that's why your reality is the way it is, because that is your baseline. So, when I said, "Do you want more money?" and you said, "Yes," that wasn't actually the truth. The truth was that you
no.
wanted the things that money brings, but that is the system. So, that right there is where the block is, because you have a lot of energy going toward no, I don't want money. And then you have a little bit of split energy over here going, but I need it because I want to be able to get all these things. And that's the system I live in. So you're going to have to kind of align with one or the other, and neither one is right or wrong. You're going to know this. If you want to say, no, I don't want the money and I just want the things to come, 100% possible. I mean, you know that. You just
It's
said it.
working.
You wanted to make smoothies, you picked up a bullet on the side of the road. I had something similar. We needed another booster car. We had a that we wanted to put in my husband's truck, found one on the side of the road, like within that week. That stuff happens if you're in that receiving mode and you're allowing it to come into your experience. And it sounds like it's happening for you a lot of the time. So then we just have to kind of look at why isn't that enough for you? Is it because you don't believe that things like the homeschooling would be able to be possible? Are there things that, like your electricity, you want to keep your electricity going? You need money for that. Do you not believe that there are other ways for that to happen?
I
I mean, if
do. I
you wanted
really
to,
do.
you do
Yeah,
believe that.
I do. I believe that all of those things in time with patience will come to you if you need them. I
Is
do. Go ahead.
Do you feel any degree of stress with not having enough money?
Only in the sense that, if I don't pay my rent, then they'll say, well, you have to give us money for your rent, or
And does
you
that
know,
drop you down on the emotional guidance scale? I mean, do you feel like because if you're staying up here all the time, even without money coming in, it won't matter, right? You're going to be creating everything you want. That's just the way law of attraction works. As long as you're in that high flying state, everything you want is going to come to you. But at some point, if you're dropping down on the emotional scale, then that's something to look at. because that means that you don't believe that it's gonna come through any other way than money. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess so that's sort of the fantasy, obviously, like okay, there would be some magical way that rent could be figured out and electricity, just your base bills, your phone, your electricity, your rent, those sorts of things, gas, but as an individual without children, without anybody in my life, I could do it. I believe it, and it's a very strong belief that I could ride a bike. All these things would shift, and that's how my being and my individual journey could totally thrive and be in that. Um, but I'm not alone. I do live in this culture. So yes, I have a real job and I pay taxes and I don't agree with it all. And so, and interestingly enough, in my human design, I have a split definition. And so for whatever that's worth, and this is not the only thing that I'm split on. There are several, and in some ways it's fun. I'm like, whoa, this is great. But then, you're right. When my rent did just get raised, and I thought, oh, so that was the drop in on that scale. I'm like, oh boy, here
Mhm.
we go. Um, so yeah, so I need to get a better relationship with money.
Well, actually, you don't. The only relationship that you need a good one with is your inner being. And so if you are focusing all your attention on feeling good as much as you possibly can, all the other stuff is going to fall in line. It won't matter. Your inner being already knows. You have money in your vibrational reality because there's been many times where things like that have happened where you then have wanted it. All that you have to do in order to want money is to experience not having it and having a drop on that emotional scale. Experiencing that contrast that makes you go, ugh, like you were talking about. Because at that point, it now exists in your vibrational reality. The opposite
Mhm.
of that negative feeling is that good feeling that exists over there. But getting that out of your vibrational reality and into your physical reality is the work. And the only way to do that is to be in a state of allowing, which means that you and your inner being are aligned. Nothing else matters. You really don't have to effort on the topic of money at all. All you have to do is focus on connecting with you, and it'll come.
Well, okay.
And I think you're already kind of doing a lot of that because you are really tuning into you and you do a lot of self work connecting. So tell me now, just as we kind of get to the end of the session here, tell me some of the things that you really love in your life. What are the things you really enjoy doing?
Doing? Like, what do I enjoy
Yeah.
doing? Oh
Yeah. It could,
man.
well, doing being anything.
Yeah. Somebody, this has been a question recently, actually. So it's not surprising that you asked. But I also enjoy being surprised because, things like that.
Yeah.
I love observing um, the clouds, the way that people interact, things that come into my life. I like the surprise of it all. It's some of it's expected, but then it's all also not. Like I love observing the way that I even interact with things. Like the other day, my son he spilt milk, and there's a lot of options there because it's a so it was on a countertop and it was coming down like a waterfall, and I chose to see beauty and fun, and I got this little rubber duck, and we built like a little lake scene, and then I was like, okay, but we should clean this up because milk does not smell good, after it's been sitting for a while. So the
I
opposing
love
side
that
of
so
that,
much, Sarah. That is amazing.
well, that's I think so. I love that, and that's not who I've always been, so I love
Mhm.
it even more so now, knowing. that I can choose, rather than yelling and getting upset over that. It's an opportunity for celebration. Most things are an opportunity for celebration. I love sharing other people's experiences. I would love to ask you about your trip, and it's just exhilarating. Life is exhilarating, in almost every way. Nature, um, everything that your senses perfect. Like we were given these bodies, everything that can be utilized in them, the mind, the senses, all of these things. Just truly, there's really not a limit to the things that I could express, and
I
except for
love that.
time. We only have so much time, and so yeah,
But even that isn't necessarily 100% accurate, right? Because even when we're done with this life, we have the option to come back and do it again. And life really is eternal. So time is really just a man made stressor in a lot of ways.
it is. It is, and
Yeah.
that's I do strongly feel that I have lived this life before. Maybe not exactly, but yeah.
Well,
Mm.
I think that what you just said was great. And all of those things, that perspective, you really have a really good way of getting onto that positive mindset. And I love this. And we did this. And this was fun. And it was exciting. And I enjoy this. And that right there, I mean, you spent at least 16 seconds talking like that. And that's how you start gaining more momentum in that positive direction. And more of that and less time thinking about money is how it's going to come to you. Just living in the moment from one satisfying moment to the next. That is how you can be a deliberate creator and just trust that everything that's in your vibrational reality is going to come to you in the perfect timing. And all you have to do is love this moment right here, right now. And I think you're doing that in a lot of ways. So, my advice to you to end our session today is to try to not think about money. Let it go as much as you can and stay up on those high feelings on the emotional guidance scale, because that's what's going to allow everything into your reality that you could ever want or need.
Hmm. Well, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, so to end our session, I'm just going to do another quick clearing. Allow us to disconnect from each other, become our whole selves, to enter back into our lives and our worlds until we meet again. I really, really enjoyed talking with you and co creating with you, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Thank you. This was perfect.
If you're enjoying the podcast, you can show your support by leaving a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform. You also can follow Dr. Williams' podcast on all social media platforms and subscribe on YouTube and by going to www.drwilliamspodcast.com. Deliberate creation is the key to living life satisfied, and that is my wish for all of you.